Welcome back to the Scenery Farm. I've recently seen some videos on how to cut very shallow angles on the Mitre Saw or on other saws, even hand saws. And I have seen similar jigs to this for scarf jointing, but this is one I use regularly in scenery construction, and I learned it about 20 years ago from a great carpenter. It's common enough in the scenery world that I just wanted to share it, and I imagine it's in many shops. So just haven't seen a good video on it, so I thought I'd throw one together. This is a scarf jig, or a shallow angle jig for the Mitre Saw. Now, when you're looking, it's not really that confusing, but I might be confusing while I'm talking about it. Mitre saws I've used, the dozen or two Mitre saws I've used, I don't know how many I've used, all when it's at 90 degrees to the fence have it at 0. And so when I move over to 45, sorry, I had it partially locked there, that's 45 degrees off 90 from the fence, but it also conveniently is 45 degrees off the fence. And on the Capex, on the right hand side, you can go to 60, on the left hand side, you can go to 50 off perpendicular from the fence. I have a Makita that goes 60-60, and it's a 12-inch saw, so it's very deep and the blade is very large. So the reason I'm talking about that is this jig is built so it's 90 degrees off the fence. And the way you set it is whatever angle you want, you're gonna figure out what scarf angle you want. You set it up so that the blade just misses the end of this. It's basically, if you come on around, the parts of the jig are really straightforward, and you can build this so many different ways. This is just, I threw this together. I have 1/2-inch plywood, a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, and then on the bottom of the 1/2-inch plywood, I have a piece of 3/4 or 19 mil or 18 mil or something plywood, and that's all attached to this 1x3 pine, and then there's a piece of 1x3 pine there. And this is 90 degrees. So with that set, you take your clamps, whatever clamp, and you lock this in place. It's tad loose. And then what you're able to do is take the wood and set it up against the fence. And if you have a laser, and you can see the reason for the 3/4 here is to hold it up. And that's good when you have something that's 5, 6, 7 feet long and you can just hold it in place. But say you're doing one that's 16 feet long, which you may do one day, what you'll end up with is a lot of sag on the far end of the wood. Then you just put a stand up there, and it's really important that you have the base of the wood in line with the bed of the saw. And if it's not in line with the bed of the saw, if it's like this, then you're not gonna, or like this, then you're not gonna have a 90 degree cut from the edge relative to the edge of the wood. So at any rate, once you're in place, you figured out your angle, the scarf angle you wanna do. When you're cutting, you're really only limited between the distance from the hard bottom of the saw there to the blade and how far you wanna cut out. Sometimes you have to go up and down a bit for the guard if the guard gets stuck, because it's not really designed for that. But you end up with a pretty shallow scarf cut or very low degree angle cut with this jig. I do a lot of mitered corners that end up being very shallow, and this is a useful way to do it. Often you can also cut these on the flat, and when you're doing that, if I'm going to go for a scarf joint and I want the maximum surface area here, what I'm going to do is with this one, it has a laser. You don't really need to worry about the laser. You just figure out the center of where the blade is going to go, line that up with the outside of the wood, And then you can... It's a pretty good way to make door stops too.